There's a quietly rising storm swirling in the bay, a force barely glimpsed yet fiercely determined to shatter expectations and breathe new life into a Warriors roster desperate for a fresh spark, and that force answers to the name Will Richard. Welcome back to Warriors News Fan Report, where raw truths collide with splash-era passion. Smash that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so your heart never misses a beat. Now, picture this, a 56th overall pick in the draft, a name that barely registered on most radars, stepping onto the hardwood with the poise of a seasoned vet, the energy of a prodigy, and a two-way skill set that could make Golden State's aging core believe they've struck gold again, a true hidden gem unearthed. Fresh off cutting down the nets at the University of Florida, Will Richard has stormed into Warriors Summer League play, not just turning heads, but making a loud undeniable case for cracking the notoriously competitive Golden State lineup. In an NBA landscape obsessed with star power and big money contracts, this 6 feet 4 inches guard is quietly rewriting the script, leading this Summer League team in minutes with a hefty 23.9 a night, pouring in 11.5 points and snatching an impressive 1.7 steals per game. His shooting numbers? While his overall field goal percentage resides at a respectable but not mind-blowing 42.4%, what's truly jaw-dropping is his efficiency inside the arc, where a scorching 63.3% conversion rate has Warriors coaching staff buzzing, alongside a near-perfect 92.9% mark from the charity stripe. Three-point shooting remains a work in progress, 20.7% from deep, barely scratching the surface of splash artistry, but his instincts and the way he finishes at the rim have caught the eyes of those tasked with shaping this team's future. It wasn't all smooth sailing from the get-go. After a rocky launch at the California Classic where Will struggled, knocking down just 9 of 26 field goals and struggling from beyond the arc with a dismal 2 of 11, something shifted. Las Vegas became his proving ground, a crucible where he recalibrated and recalculated, now boasting an eye-popping 48.5% shooting clip overall across his last few games and a near-unstoppable 80% inside the arc. Summer League head coach Lane Wilson's praise cut through the noise. He's starting to look a little more comfortable, words that carry weight considering the strict standards Warriors veterans and staff hold themselves and newcomers. 2. But here's the under-the-radar bomb no one saw coming. That comfort extends far beyond mere numbers. Richard's symphony of energy, maturity, and an almost instinctual defensive mindset slots perfectly into Steve Kerr's prized vision of a team that champions both ends of the floor. This alignment isn't trivial. Behind the scenes, Golden State wrestles with razor-thin financial margins, juggling the massive contracts of Stephen Curry, Draymond Green, and Jimmy Butler III, consuming over 80% of the salary cap and leaving precious little wiggle room for players outside the superstar orbit. The Warriors need something rare and priceless: youth, affordability, and impact rolled into one. Consider Richard a tantalizing answer to that pressing holy grail. The departure of veteran stalwart Kevin Looney, who inked a 2-year, $16 million deal with the Pelicans, has left a gaping hole in the frontcourt rotation. And while whispers persist about Al Horford's potential arrival, nothing concrete has materialized, and veteran Gary Payton II remains unsigned, dangling uncertainly on the periphery, possibly tilting toward a pay cut if he returns at all. Golden State has cast its net wide, previously chasing defensive tenacity in Ryan Rollins, now a Milwaukee man, and enduring the misfortune of DeAnthony Melton's torn ACL early last season, even as they await his hopeful comeback. Yet defense on the perimeter remains a glaring need, which is precisely where Will Richard steps boldly into the spotlight, brandishing a 6 feet 10 inches wingspan that cloaks his opponents and defensive instincts, sharpened to razor-edge precision. He isn't just a scorer, with a scoring touch reminiscent of the early Splash era's gritty role players who carved their niches with fearless finishes and relentless hustle. Richard embodies the two-way versatility that could define the next chapter of Warriors basketball. At only 22 years old, His performances resonate with a vintage Warriors swagger, a poise beyond his years that recalls the "We Believe" team's fearless heart and the championship DNA forged in Oracle's electric atmosphere. Could this be the watershed moment that turns everything on its head for a franchise seeking to recapture the relentless championship hunger that once burned so bright? Is Will Richard the overlooked jolt Dub Nation needs, a value signing that builds towards a new dynasty, or a crucial piece in a roster puzzle riddled with cap constraints and aging legends? As we watch the steady rise of this quietly explosive guard, a figure balancing hope and grit on the razor's edge of reality, we're reminded that greatness often emerges from the shadows, forged in summer league fire and stubborn dreams. The Warriors, at their core, have always believed in the underdog, the overlooked, the diamond in the rough, the very spirit Will Richard exudes every time he steps onto the court. As a lifelong Dub Nation believer, my pulse is racing just writing this, caught between cautious optimism and an electrifying hope. But is this the ignition point for our next title run, or the crack that splits our legacy? Drop your unfiltered takes in the comments. I'll be right there, heart in hand. If you just felt a flicker of that old Warriors fire spark deep inside when you heard Will Richards' name whispered on the lips of coaches and front office alike, then I need you locked in right now, because what we're watching could be the seismic shift that either reignites the dynasty or tears apart its fragile bones. There's no room for nostalgia here, no time to rest on the laurels built by Splash Brothers and relentless Draymond grind. The Chase Center's shining lights now spotlight a new kind of urgency, a hunger born from years of watching our Warriors age, our edges dull, and our cap space tighten like a noose strangling every last breath of hope for multiple titles more. Will Richard isn't just a late second-round pick quietly trying to carve minutes in summer league games. No, he's a symbol of a franchise desperately searching for the next pulse of life, the next high-voltage chip that can slide into the grand chessboard and keep the momentum flowing. But here's the rub: the glare of that spotlight on Richard's 6'10" wingspan and crafty defense throws into sharp relief the brutal infrastructure around him. Steph Curry's still putting in work trying to lengthen his prime, while Draymond Green's fiery leadership and whistles keep the locker room heart beating. But the cracks are more visible than ever. Everyone knows the burden on these two carries the weight of 3 rings, but even the brightest stars eventually flicker. And while young guns like Kuminga and Moody flash bursts of game-breaking talent, their inconsistency feels like a cryptic roadblock on what should be a straight highway to more finals. So watching Richard glide in with such veteran calm and defensive snaps at 22 feels like an affront to time, itself a kid rewriting the narrative just as the older Titans stand on the precipice of career twilight. Yet let's not get blinded by shiny stats or dreams of instant stardom. The low three-point percentage stings. It's the currency the Warriors trade in. And without it, the offense stutters under relentless NBA pressure. The whispers in the backrooms are electric questions. Can he develop that shot quick enough? Can Steve Kerr's world-class system morph to shelter raw talent but still punish opponents? And what about loyalty and chemistry? The Warriors have always thrived on brotherhood and trust, forged in playoff battles and shared triumphs, not just raw athletic upside. Can Richard, an outsider bred in a different college program and a new era, mesh deeply with the team's ethos without practically starting from scratch in the merciless NBA crucible? Meanwhile, the ripple effect off the court thickens the plot. Kevin Looney's move to New Orleans left a front court hole not easily filled by speculation about Al Horford or a potential Gary Payton II pay cut. The Warriors are caught in a maddening blend of blockbuster contract legacy costs and the desperate hunt for shrewd value signings. They're running on fumes and calculating gambles while the Thunder and Pelicans reload aggressively. The Lakers tinker desperately, and the Suns stare down the possibility of another season just short of the summit. Will Richard might be the diamond in the rough, Kerr in the front office tossing the hopper hoping to emerge radiant. But the calendar ticks mercilessly toward training camp, and every possession counts. The locker room vibe, rumor mill, and coaching staff chatter blend into a simmering stew of hope and uncertainty. Kerr's legendary calm feels tested. His mind must wrestle with balancing veteran respect and youth infusion, all amid pressure cooker. Expectations from a fan base hungry for more than just highlights and highlight reels. And add to this a swirling backdrop of NBA free agency whispers, tantalizing trade rumors, and the incessant spotlight on Steph's relentless chase for greatness. And the tension becomes almost unbearable. What if the team leans too hard on the pass and lets a future Hall of Famer like Richard slip through the cracks? What if the cap limitations snap tighter, forcing a painful decision between preserving the familiar or thrusting the new blood into a crucible too hot too soon? What if by leaning on this rookie's grit and fire, Golden State's system redefines itself less splash, more shutdown, less hero ball, more team grit, and rekindles that we believe swagger, pouring soul into every defensive stand? And hustle play? Could this be the moment the Warriors pivot, where the aging legends become mentors and the rookies like Richard inject raw, desperate energy that sparks a late career revival, not just a rebuilding hangover? Or do we brace for the sting of watching this proud franchise enter an unfamiliar purgatory, caught between fading glory and reluctant transition? History is screaming from the shadows of Oracle Arena. Remember when nobody believed in that 2007 team that shocked the world? When those underdogs stormed past the first round and rewrote what was possible? That was identity and heart, forged by belief and scrappy grit over superstars. Richard exudes that fire. But in a game increasingly dominated by star power, ultra-thin margins, and relentless media scrutiny, can he survive? Can he thrive? Can he carry? These questions aren't abstract. They are playoff series, crucial fourth quarters, and front office boardroom internal debates bleeding onto the hardwood. As someone who bled blue and gold through every heartbreak, parade, run, and fade from the finals losses that shattered dreams to the championship moments that restored our faith, I feel it in my bones that something primal shifts this season. A new chapter is clawing its way into existence. Fragile but fierce a chapter where a 22-year-old role player might become the lone spark that keeps the dynasty's flame flickering just long enough to pass the torch. No, the path won't be easy. Expectations, history, pressure, and the unforgiving spotlight of the NBA combine into an unforgiving crucible. But if the Warriors can harness Richard's defensive tenacity, his effort, and the creeping improvement in his shot, he could be the long-sought secret weapon, the underdog story we've all been craving since the last parade. Because basketball greatness is more than the splash it's defense, heart, pain, resilience, and the unyielding will to reinvent on the grind of every single possession. Dub Nation, this is the cliffhanger we've raced to. Will Richard rise? As the beacon amid financial strain, aging stars, and the looming shadows of rival reboots? Or will he fall victim to the merciless NBA crucible and become just another footnote in a team desperate for new life? It's raw, it's real, and it's happening now. So I'm throwing it back to you. Drop your hottest takes below. No filter, no fear. Tell me, are you ready to believe in Will Richard, this diamond in the rough? Or does the Warriors' glory era quietly die on our watch? I'm here, heart laid bare, ready to square off in the comments, armed with receipts and die-hard faith. Let's ride this storm together, because the next chapter of Warriors basketball is being written as we speak, and we'll live it or lose it in real time. I can feel it in my bones. The Warriors might just be sculpting the perfect storm, blending Steph's genius with the fire of the hungry Madsen, the raw promise of Kuminga, and the silent tenacity of Moody. It's not about adding star power. It's about adding heart, grind, and the relentless will to claw back into supremacy. This season might not look like the dominant juggernaut of years past, but maybe it's a season that sets the foundation beneath that juggernaut's return. Now it's time to drop your fiercest, no-holds-barred take below. Tell me, is Gabe Madsen the diamond in the rough, the spark that could rewrite this Warriors story? Or is he just another summer mirage, lost to the harsh cold of the NBA's ruthless. Reality? Rally in the comments, because Dub Nation deserves this conversation raw and unfiltered. And trust me, I'll be right there with all the receipts and rage until the buzzer sounds again.